My name is Gunnery Sergeant Travis Ward, United States Marine Corps. I'm 35 years old. Last Wednesday at 21:46, I checked a lottery ticket I bought with exactly zero ceremony and realized I'd just won $61 million. I didn't shout. I didn't call anybody. I did what I've done in every kind of weather on every kind of hillside from Pendleton Scrub to mountains that don't have names in English. I breathed in, breathed out, and started range estimating the fallout. People think snipers are about pulling triggers. We're not. We're about decisions, the kind that stack quietly. Wind, call, mirage, humidity, angle, distance. Tiny data points that turn into a clean shot or a lifetime of regret. Money works the same way, just louder. It pushes on people like wind pushes on a bullet. A good man leans into it. A hollow man tips over. I decided faster than I've ever decided anything. Tell no one. Not my father with his handshake deals. Not my kid sister who still thinks I can fix everything. Not my ex who texts, "Would you?" at 2 a.m. like we're stuck in 2018. I folded the ticket into the pocket of an old field jacket that still smells like dust and CLP, and I slept like I do in hide sights. Eyes shut, lungs steady, every muscle ready to wake up with no warning. I'm a Marine Corps sniper, MOS 0317 by way of 0311, Scout Sniper School class that felt like a slow-motion drowning until it didn't. I've spent years in ghillie suits I stitched grass into with fishing line, hours behind a rangefinder triple-checking numbers until they clicked like puzzle pieces. Long-range marksmanship, stealth, recon, that's my box of tools. My personality looks the same, focused, quiet, precise. People read that as cold. It isn't. It's steady. Home is Oceanside, California. I rent a one-bedroom above an upholstery shop that smells like glue and old couches. The landlord is a Korean War vet who talks like a radio. He forgets my name and calls me Sergeant Marine, which honestly works fine. I drive a 12-year-old Tacoma with a bedliner I installed myself and a habit of starting on the third try when the Marine layer hangs heavy. My mother Ellen works the early shift at Harborview Diner and the late shift at Not Complaining. She loves too hard and pays the price in pulled tips and double mortgages. My father Ray started out with a socket set and swagger. Now he runs a small contracting outfit that overpromises, underbids, and always seems one invoice away from collapse. He remarried Terry, who thinks boundaries is a word for other people to follow. My younger sister, Maddie, 28, works as a veterinary assistant, drives a Civic with a cracked windshield, and believes in me like it's her religion. My half-brother on dad's side, Cole, is 23, allergic to bosses, and always pitching the next big thing that will start paying him next week. There's Aunt Nora, Mom's older sister, a school bus driver who never had children and somehow managed to mother the neighborhood anyway. She has calloused hands, exactly 2 pairs of shoes, and a savings account built from nickels and stubbornness. I send money when it's needed. Not because I'm soft, because I can read wind and I can read people, and sometimes both of those tell me to move cash. When Dad's truck died because he forgot the oil, again, I sent him $900 with a text that said "for the love of God buy a filter." When a client stiffed him anyway, I paid the electrician directly so Maddie's lights stayed on. When Mom's dishwasher died and she was hand washing for a 30-table breakfast rush, I put a used Hobart on my credit card and never told her the total. I don't say this as a martyr. I say it because it's the terrain I was living on when the number hit. I don't play much. When I do, I pick numbers like I pick routes, by memory. 01 for the day I graduated Scout Sniper School. 09 for the month we lost Mason, my first spotter, to a roadside bomb he never saw coming. 17 for the age I first qualified expert on the KD course with a rifle older than me. 23 for Maddie's birthday. 31 because every range card I make has a 31 somewhere on it. Don't ask me why. Powerball 5 because 5 clicks is where everything starts to get interesting. I buy the ticket at Vista Fuel because it's between base and home, because the clerk Lupe calls me Flaco and sneaks me a free coffee sometimes. I scratch the corner of the ticket like I scratch the corner of a map, put it in the jacket and forget it until I don't. Then the draw hits. The numbers align like stars the night you think you might believe in omens. There's a version of me that calls Maddie and says we did it. That version lives in a universe where wind is always zero value. I opened a browser and read every story I could find on lottery winners who regret breathing. Families that turned into courts. Friends who became invoices. Cousins who grew like mold in corners you didn't even know your house had. The shortest article cut deepest. Money reveals. It does not repair. At 0800, I called a number I found at 0317. Pritchard Klein and Ames, Estates, Trusts and Asset Protection. The partner who saw me that afternoon was Alyssa Pritchard. Gray suit, steady voice, eyes that didn't blink any more than necessary. "First," she said, "well done on not telling anyone." She slid a legal pad across the table like a mission brief. "Here's how you stay a ghost. We built a blind trust with a name that sounds boring enough to get waved through, Mesa Quiet Trust. We mapped a tax plan, an investment policy, and a cover story. I'd accepted a CONUS instructor billet with a retention bonus and a housing allowance bump. In other words, more money without yachts. You will feel generous," Alyssa said, "and you should be, strategically. But if you announce, the money will start making your decisions for you. Choose your one confidant and choose your boundaries before you choose your checks. I know how to build a hide. I know where to place brush so a shadow never looks like a silhouette." I nodded. "What about a test?" "A what?" "A character test," I said. "Quiet one. No cameras. Just me asking for help and seeing who does what." She didn't blink. "If you run it, do it like a sniper. Same story, same ask, same timeline. Enough to be meaningful, not enough to be impossible." "What number?" She considered. "Something with a 5 and a 0. Humans respect round numbers and doubt oddly specific ones." I left with a binder and a boundary, and the first good night's sleep I'd had since I realized what matched what. I wrote it down like a 5-line order so I wouldn't ad-lib my way into sentiment. Situation: a vendor failed on a refrigeration unit I co-signed for at Mom's Diner. The company is disputing the warranty, and the repo guy showed up early. We're 2 weeks from getting my re-enlistment/retention bonus, but the lien holder wants $7,500 now or they seize the unit and Mom's out of business. Mission: bridge loan of $7,500 for 6 weeks. I'll repay in full by the 28th and sign a simple note. Execution: ask politely, no pressure, accept no, thank them anyway. Record the answer in a notebook. Admin/logistics. If yes, meet at a bank, do a simple written agreement, no family drama. Command/signal. Keep voice steady. Ask once. Don't hint, guilt, or bargain. Then I started dialing. 1. Mom Ellen. She answered from the back alley by the dumpster. I could hear the fan blowing grease into the morning. I gave her the situation and mission clean, no static. "Oh baby," she said. I can try, but I've got payroll and the beer distributor and the city permit guy breathing." "It's okay," I said genuinely. The plan wasn't to hurt anyone. "I wanted to ask you first. If I pull from tips and skip rent," she said, punching numbers in her head out loud the way she always does, "I can get you $600 by Friday. And I can make you casseroles so you aren't spending on takeout. I'll never say no to casseroles." She laughed, which made us both feel human. I wrote $600, spirit full in the notebook and underlined casseroles. To Dad Ray. Met him at Suds and Sips, the craft brewery he calls his second office. He wore a polo with his company logo, Rayward Contracting, that still had the sticker on the brim like it was a hat. I gave him the situation. He nodded the way men nod when they're not listening but they like you. 7.5, he said. "That's a fender bender, not a crash." "It's the diner's oxygen," I said. He launched into a lecture about teaching a man to fish, that probably plays great to his reflection in the bathroom mirror. "You shouldn't be co-signing," he said. "That's boundary 101. You Marines, you think you can take a hill with grit. How much can you help?" He tipped back his sampler glass. "I'm tight. We're in a cash flow squeeze with 2 builds and a slow pay. I can float you $400 by Monday. Or you can come do some demo for me, cash." "I'm still on active duty, Dad." "You get leave," he said like leave was a coupon. "Think about the sweat equity. Builds character." I wrote $400, lecture attached. 3. Terry, his wife. I called because it's honest to go to the money person. She put on her accountant voice. "We're reallocating for a refinance," she said. "Low liquidity posture. You should consider a 0 APR card." "I'm not asking for advice," I said gently. "Just a loan." "We can do $0, she said, cheerful like she'd won a game. Wrote no with a draw-through line. For Maddie, my sister. We met at Duke's Donuts, neutral ground with sprinkles. When I told her, she went pale and angry at the same time, which is her superpower. "They can't take Mom's unit," she said, like physics could change if she wanted it enough. "I'll sell my guitar. I can get $1,200 if I'm lucky. I can put $300 on my card. I can ask my boss for an advance." "You're not selling your guitar," I said. "You keep that thing like it's a lung." She pushed the box of donuts toward me like sugar could armor a man. "Then take $500 from me and $500 from my savings. I'll make it back." I wrote $1,000, heart bigger than wallet. 5. Cole, my half-brother. He texted back. Bro, say less, I gotta flip this weekend, front you July 5th Sunday. Sunday came with a story about a whale who didn't show and a request for $1,000 seed to make it right. I didn't reply. He spammed 3 crying laughing emojis and a rocket ship. Wrote ghosted plus ask back. 6. Uncle Leon, dad's brother. The retired union guy with knees like old hinges. He listened, sucked his teeth and said, your dad ought to be ashamed. He offered $250 and a ride anywhere I needed. I wrote $250 plus ride and circled the ride. 7. Cousin Sienna, mom's side. She said absolutely, promised $2,000, then texted an hour later, actually can we do $1K? Rent hit and Dusty's brakes. I told her yes because I wasn't grading dollar amounts, I was grading effort. Wrote $1,000, tried. 8. Terry's brother Matt. He emailed me a Calendly link. I booked a 15-minute slot and got a pitch for a bridge product at 18% APR. I ended the call early. Wrote loan shark in a tie. I had 2 names left. The pen hovered like a front sight over a target you don't want to drop. 9. Aunt Nora. I didn't want to call her because I knew she would try to give me more than she has. That's her. She answers on the second ring, still breathless from lugging a backpack full of snacks to kids who forget breakfast. How much do you need and where do I bring it? She said before I finished. Nora, I said, I'm not trying to make you. Travis, she said, voice steady, say the number. 7-5. Come over, she said. Give me 30 minutes. Her apartment smells like laundry and dill pickles. She sat me at the table, opened a metal bread box and pulled out 2 envelopes that looked like they'd been filled one $5 bill at a time. One is $2,500, she said. Emergency fund. I imagine this qualifies. The other is $1,200. I was saving for a new couch because this one does that thing where you can feel the wood, but I can sit on wood and live. Nora, I said, no. Yes, she said, pushing the envelopes closer. You were 5 when you learned to tie your shoes and you insisted on doing the other one yourself until you cried. You were 8 when you used your allowance to buy Maddie a stuffed turtle because she wanted it more than you wanted Jawbreakers. You were 18 when you signed up and 23 when you came home with eyes I did not recognize and still helped me string Christmas lights. Take the money. When the bonus hits, you can pay me back in frozen lasagnas and not arguing when I say no. I did what Marines do when civilians are braver than us. I said Roger. Then because it was true I said I love you. I wrote $3,700 plus bread box plus lasagna with a star. 10. Doc Rivera. Doc is Navy but ours. HM2 Luis Rivera, our platoon corpsman, the man who glued me back together more times than he admits. He isn't family by blood. He's family by tourniquet. He met me at Sam's Cafe, poured cream into his coffee until it looked like sand and let me talk. When I finished, he nodded like he'd already put the pieces where they go in his head. I can do $2,000, he said, and I'll bring ice to your mom's diner so she doesn't have to buy it full price. My cousin's got a hookup. He grinned. The legal kind. You don't need to. Shut up, he said cheerful. You taught me wind. I teach you how to accept help without bleeding. I wrote $2,000 plus ice plus shut up. The notebook looked like a target with shots clustered around one clean hole. Most people cared. They cared in words. A few cared in deeds that cost. 2 people, Nora and Doc, put skin in the game without adding interest about my character. I went home, put the envelopes in my safe and stared at the ceiling. Then I called Alyssa. Pick one person, she'd said. Tell them the truth. I chose 2. Then I did the hardest thing I've done outside of a wire. I told them. I told Nora first. I brought groceries and flowers I couldn't pronounce and my whole stupid heart. She sat down without talking, which is how you know a person respects silence. I came into money, I said. A lot. Lottery. I set up a trust. I'm safe. I'm okay. I did the loan ask because I needed to see what the wind would do to people I love. She looked at me like I was the same kid who put the turtle on the counter and paid in coins. Are you going to tell your mama? Not now, I said. Maybe never. Are you going to take care of her without making her feel small? Every day, I said. She nodded. Then bring me my envelopes. I'll keep them here, and when you forget that you are loved for free, you can hold them and remember. I cried like a leak you can't find and don't want to fix. I told Doc next. His eyebrows went up and then down. Good, he said. Now you can buy the good coffee. I told him the plan. A modest house paid cash under the trust, a story about an instructor billet with a retention bonus, and a quiet fund that would quietly erase medical bills for older neighbors and military widows in 3 zip codes. He chewed that like it was gristle and nodded when he swallowed. Give like a hose, he said. Not like a hydrant. You drown less people that way. Alyssa and I drafted the script. It went like this: I'm fine. I got a billet shift. I'm reducing availability for loans, errands, and rescues. I love you. I'm not your emergency fund. If you have a health or safety emergency, call me. Otherwise, call a plan. I invited Mom, Dad, Terry, Maddie, Cole, and Uncle Leon to my place on Sunday. I put out coffee and those shortbread cookies that taste like childhood. Nora and Doc didn't come. They knew the truth. They didn't need the show. I stood, habit that feels like work, and delivered the script like a brief before patrol. Clear. Calm. Unapologetic. Mom cried. She does that when she's relieved and when she's scared. This looked like both. She hugged me hard and whispered, I'm proud of you, which landed like a medal I didn't apply for. Dad nodded like he'd advised me. Good boundaries, he said. About time. Terry said, we were worried you were enabling, in a voice that sounded like a victory lap. Cole asked if I could Venmo him $300 to hold him over while he pivoted. I told him no. He said wow like I'd slapped him. Maddie squeezed my hand under the table like we were on a roller coaster right before the drop. Uncle Leon asked if anyone needed a ride home because he doesn't like the way grief makes people drive. That was it. No fireworks. No referendum. Just a room that felt different when everyone left. I texted Nora. Soup tastes like soup. She replied, as it should. The world didn't move, I did. I bought a small house in Fallbrook, nothing shiny, single story, big shade tree, a garage that fits my tools and an old heavy bag. The deed lives inside Mesa Quiet Trust. The mailbox says Ward because a man can still have a name. The kitchen has a gas stove because I like fire I can see. I left the sniper platoon when it made sense, not with a bang, but with a handshake and a final gear turn-in that felt like a funeral for a piece of me I respected. I took a training billet that reads like a promotion on paper and like breathing in real life. I teach marksmanship and fieldcraft to Marines who remind me of the way I used to laugh before I understood wind. I start class the same way every time. Slow is smooth. Smooth is fast. Your ego will get you killed. Your notebook will keep you alive. Mom raised her prices 50 cents a plate and didn't lose a single regular. I got the diner a new unit under the trust's name and wrote the payments off as a contract with a silent partner, who never shows up for pie. She refuses to believe anyone would help without being asked. She is right and wrong. Dad had a scare, chest pains that turned out to be a warning and a bill with more zeros than his contract bids. An anonymous donation from a veterans community fund paid what insurance wouldn't. He told me about it over a beer, kept looking at the sky like he expected a helicopter with a banner to explain. I said I was glad some people still do right. He agreed, and for once he didn't brag about being one of them. Terry posted something on Instagram about protecting your energy from users, with a photo of a latte and a laptop. I turned my phone face down and went outside to listen to the wind hit the sycamore. Cole calls less. When he does, it's to grab coffee and network. I don't do coffee and network. I do coffee in silence or coffee and work. He doesn't have much to say to either. Maddie paid me back the $1,000 in 20s and one she saved in a jar with Travis written on blue tape. She handed it to me with a speech about not wanting to be a person who takes. I took the jar, kissed her forehead, and slipped the cash under the Mesa Quiet umbrella for emergency pet care grants at her clinic. She still thinks it's her boss being generous. Her boss still thinks it's a tax write-off. Everyone's happy. The animals get surgery. Nora's couch is still lumpy, and she will not accept a new one even if it arrives like rain. She agreed to let me pay her power bill by putting her on a teacher's subsidy program that I can only describe as legal magic. She bakes me lasagnas I do not deserve. We watch old game shows and try to outbid contestants on vacation packages to Branson like we're there. Doc and I stock pantry shelves at the VA clinic on Thursdays. It has a sign that says take what you need, we'll fill it again. It doesn't have my name. It has a little blue ribbon in the corner because I can't help myself, and because I like the way small symbols mean big things when you notice them. The Quiet Fund, the hose, not the hydrant, has erased hospital bills that were older than the grandmothers who carried them. We don't write letters. We don't ask for thanks. We watch numbers go from $7,891.16 to $0 and drink black coffee in the parking lot and talk about birds. I haven't told the world. Money didn't make me honest, it made me clear. The hardest part of boundaries isn't saying no to other people. It's saying no to the version of yourself that gets applause for bleeding. I like being the emergency fund. It made me feel like a hero in a story that never ends. Now I like being a man who buys bolts by the box and remembers to put the drill back on the charger. I like being an instructor whose students call him Gunny with respect and not fear. I like asking Nora if she wants the last piece of pie and pretending we both don't. Do I think about telling them? Sometimes. When Dad looks tired in the shoulders. When Mom leaves a thank you note on a plate like a tradition she invented. When Maddie plays guitar on my porch and the neighborhood kid with the skateboard sits on the steps and listens. I picture relief washing over their faces like rain. Then I picture requests multiplying like weeds. I picture Terry turning generosity into plan and Cole turning it into pitch. I picture good people getting noisy and noisy people getting bold. Money doesn't give people manners. It gives them volume. I keep the envelopes Nora handed me in my safe. I take them out sometimes and hold the weight of paper saved one shift, one ride, one skip treat at a time. That weight is what love feels like when it carries cash in a bread box. I left the bills inside. I replaced the amount with thicker numbers in her life, the kind you don't fold. At night, the wind comes down off the hills and plays in the trees. I stand on the back step and taste it like I used to taste dust on ranges far from here. Calm wind makes you sloppy. Variable wind makes you humble. Either way you check it, either way you write it down. I still keep a notebook. The first page has 5 lines. People told me who they are. I believe them. I told them who I am. I believe me. Act accordingly. Revenge, at least the kind I chose, was never about screaming matches, slammed doors, or cutting people off in ways that left scars. It was quieter than that, almost surgical in its simplicity. I didn't need to throw my lottery win in anyone's face or demand apologies that would never come. All I had to do was step back, set boundaries, and watch as people revealed who they truly were when they thought I had nothing. Keeping my secret gave me the power to measure their loyalty without ever lifting a finger, and the results spoke louder than any argument could. The real revenge wasn't in hurting them, it was in the calm satisfaction of knowing I no longer owed them explanations, money, or pieces of myself they never valued. My peace, my silence, and the life I built on my own terms became the answer to years of being underestimated. That kind of revenge doesn't explode. It settles like a steady wind, and it leaves you standing while the noise fades behind you. I'm curious, have you ever tested someone's loyalty on purpose or by accident? What did you see when the wind hit? Drop your story in the comments. If this hit home, like and subscribe and send it to the one person who shows up with a wrench, not a speech.